God bless you. This is a message that I preached earlier this summer at the revival that my church was having. The pastor asked me to preach at 11 o'clock in the morning, and God revealed to me what he wanted me to say to the people. The message is entitled, Remember Me, and it's all about how God remembers those who do what is right. So I pray that you enjoy this message and it applies to your life today. I'm going to tell y'all my side of the story. So last night, at about 9:54 p.m., me and Gershom embarked on an amazing journey. We decided, hey, we're going to go to Oxford real quick and swing right back, you know? It's just what happens sometimes. Brothers do that. I don't know about ladies, but brothers, we do that. We go on wild trips real quick. I had to go get something from Oxford. So we swung to Oxford, got there at 11 o'clock, you know. I got what I needed. We ate some snacks in my house. And then we drove back, got home at 12:30. I stayed up till 2. So, you know, I said, I'm going to sleep in. I'm not going to wake up too early. I wake up, go downstairs, you know, good day, beautiful morning. Now I got the stuff I need. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And my plans changed. I sat down. See, that was a trick. Never sit down on a couch in your parents' house. I always act like you got something to do. So I sat down on the couch. He's like, hey, you going to preach tonight. And I was like, isn't this how the Lord works? You have your own decisions you want to make, and, you know, you get knocked out of your own way, and God tells you you're going to do what I tell you to do. So, okay, let's get started with the message. All right, let's see here. Hold on. If y'all would just bear with me, I got 2 things to set up. Okay, one more thing. That way I can say what I have to, I can do what I have to do. Give me. All right, here we go. There we go. It's going to work out this time. Thank God for everybody being here tonight once again. Thank God for my fellow trustees. Power to the team. Yes, yeah. See, I always come up here and represent the ministries I'm a part of. Thank God for the trustees. Name another team that can count money better than us, I'll wait. Exactly. Thank God for the media team as usual. Y'all don't mess up while I'm up here. I'll find out later on after service. Picture in picture. I made sure all the slides were right. All right, let's get started. First, I'm going to say what I usually say. Oh, sorry, I didn't turn this on. There we go. First things first. Hold on. Oh, can y'all turn on that TV for me? I can't see my slides. Can y'all turn on the TV for me? Thank you. I was wondering, Christian Boy Podcast. Every time I get a chance to preach, I'm going to tell y'all this isn't my first time preaching. Christian Boy Podcast. You can search it up on anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and you can listen to it. We just got started with our newsletter. Well, I just got started with the newsletter on there. That newsletter is on the website, and you can get to it scanning that QR code or going to christianboypodcast.com and going to this month's issue. So if you want to read the newsletter, please let me know what y'all think about it. It's totally optional. I'm seriously going to ask a few of you. But it's totally optional. Let's get straight to the word. Genesis chapter 19. Genesis chapter 19 is an interesting chapter. It's infamous in the LGBTQ community because some people have misinterpreted this chapter a little bit, and they think it's all about gay people. It's not. It's a lot going on in Sodom and Gomorrah other than gay people. There's a lot of stuff going on. But that's what we're going to be. Let's read Genesis chapter 19 and get into it. It says, 2 angels entered Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting at Sodom's gate. When he saw them, he got up to meet them. He bowed with his face to the ground. He said, my lords, turn aside to your servant's house, wash your feet and spend the night. Then you can get up early and go on your way. No, they said, we would rather spend the night in the square. But he urged them strongly that they should follow him and went. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. I cannot see that. Jesus. Okay. But he urged them strongly that they followed him and went into his house. They prepared he prepared a feast and baked unleavened bread for them, and they ate. Before they went to bed, the men of the city of Sodom, both young and old, the whole population surrounded the house. They called out to Lot and said, "Where are the men who came with you tonight? Send them out so that we can have sex with them." Hey, yo. Lot went out to them at the entrance and shut the door behind him and said, "Don't do this evil, my brothers. Look, I've got 2 daughters who haven't had sexual relations with a man. I'll bring them out to you, and you can do whatever you want to them. However, do not do anything to these men because they have come under the roof of my protection." "Get out of the way," they said, adding this, "One came here as a foreigner, but he is acting like a judge. Now, we'll do more harm to you than to them." They put pressure on Lot and came to break the door down the door. But the angels reached out, brought Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. They struck the men who were at the entrance of the house, both young and old, with blinding light, so they were unable to find the entrance. Then the angel said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, a son-in-law, your sons and your daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of this place. For we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people is so great before the Lord that the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law who were going to marry his daughters. "Get up," he said, "get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. At daybreak, the angels urged Lot, "Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he hesitated because of the Lord's compassion for him. The men grabbed his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his daughters. Then they brought him out and left him outside the city. As soon as the angels got them outside, one of them said, "Run for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere on the plain. Run to the mountains or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please, your servant has indeed found favor in your sight, and you have shown me great kindness by saving my life. But I can't run to the mountains. The disaster will overtake me and I will die. Look, this town is close enough for me to run to. It is a small place. Please let me go there. It is only a small place, isn't it? So that I can survive." And he said to him, "All right, I'll grant you your request about this matter too, and will not demolish the town you mentioned. Hurry up, run there, for I cannot do anything until you get there." Therefore, the name of this city is Zoar. The sun had risen over the land when Lot reached Zoar. Then out of the sky the Lord rained burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord. He demolished these cities, the entire plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and whatever grew on the ground. But his wife looked back and became a pillar of salt. Early in the morning, Abraham went to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah and all the land of the plain, and he saw that smoke was going up from the land like smoke of a furnace. So it was when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham and brought Lot out of the middle of the upheaval when he demolished the cities where Lot had lived. This is the most important verse that I underlined the part that's most important. Verse 29 is the most important. So the message today is remember me. Being righteous not only helps you, but those around you, benefits those around you. So let's do a quick recap. I do this on my podcast all the time, so we all understand we're all together. Lot goes to the city and he's outside the gate and he sees some angelic looking men. He invites them to his house. They don't want to stay in his house. He urged them so much that they go to his house. When they're at the house, the men of the city, these must have been some very beautiful angels, because I don't know. But the men of the city come knocking on his door and is like, "Hey, yo, bring them out so that we can have sex with them." And Lot, being the man that he is, I don't know why this was a much more diplomatic solution, but he decides, you know what? Hey, instead of these men, take my daughters instead. That's not very good, but we're going to glance over that. And This Lot goes out there, tries to talk to him. They're not convinced. They try to bust down the door. The angels strike them with blindness and tell Lot the city is going to be destroyed. He tries to tell his sons-in-law. They don't listen. Lot runs to the gate of the city and makes a deal with the angels. If the angels told me the city was going to be destroyed, I'm not going to try to make any deals. But he makes a deal and says, don't destroy this small city over here that we can go to, because if we try to go to the mountains, we're going to die. They run to the city. By the time the sun comes up, his wife looks back, turns into a pillar of salt, and the city's destroyed. And then we see Abraham go to where he spoke to God, and he sees Sodom and Gomorrah completely destroyed. And then it says that God remembered Abraham, and that's why he brought Lot out. So let's take a look. Y'all know how I do. Let's take a look at Lot real quick. I didn't want to put a man's face on Lot because, we don't want to do that. But Lot, let's look at Lot. He was Abraham's nephew. We see that. We all should know that one. He had a lot of possessions. That's why he and Abraham could not live together anymore. He moved to a more fertile ground for his cattle when he and Abraham split up so that there would be no quarrels against them. He was saved by Abraham when he first moved to Sodom and Gomorrah when the 4 kings tried to attack it. And then he had 2 daughters and a wife. So judging from what happened in the chapter, we can see he wasn't that great of a father, at least, because I would have defended my daughters and everybody in my household. What type of dad does that kind of thing? And we obviously know that his marriage was on the rocks. It was pretty salty towards the end, All right, that was corny. I get it. That was corny. I know that joke was of poor taste. It was probably bland, like food that lacked salt. Okay, that one was even worse. All right, I'm done. I wouldn't want any of you to get salty with me, Okay, I'm done for real. I learned you never tell jokes out of season, okay? All right. Let's look at the other man. Let's look at Abraham. Father Abraham had many sons, even though he only had 2, then his sons had kids. I don't get that song to this day. But Father Abraham had many sons. So this is Abraham. He had a promise from God in Genesis chapter 12. He was very rich. He was a great warrior. Like I said, he and 319 men saved Lot and his family from the 4 kings who took over Sodom and Gomorrah. He talked to God often. We see that throughout the chapter. God was talking to him like they was best friends. He better be glad he didn't get caught up like Enoch did. And then he was righteous. Now, this is just a few of the characteristics of Abraham. We could go through his entire history, but that'll take us some time. And I know, I'm long-winded. Everybody's told me that since my last message. I get it. I'm long-winded, all right? I get it. But he was also obedient. We saw Abraham was obedient. He was obedient to the point of almost killing his own son because God told him to. I can't say I would have been as obedient as Abraham. I would have been like, Lord, this don't make no sense, So yeah, we see that, but that's not supposed to happen until later on. It happens after Genesis 19, so we're going to stick with the stuff that we see before that. So Abraham had many things: a godly promise, possessions, war strategies, but I believe what made God remember him and save Lot's life was the fact that he lived for God, obeying all that God had to say and following all his laws. And because of that, we see God remembering him, saving Lot in Genesis 19. And the interesting thing is, after Genesis 19, it's a terrible conclusion to the entire chapter. Genesis 19 the end is very, very sad, because Lot ends up living in fear, not listening to the word that the angels gave him. Instead of living where the angels told him he could live, he goes to the mountains. And in the mountains, some stuff happens. We don't need to get into that today. Just read the chapter of Genesis 19 at your own leisure. So now the question becomes, what makes a person righteous? So now that's the question, but you can also say, what makes God remember you? What makes a person righteous? What makes God remember you? So let's look at a few scriptures. I can't look at them all, because if we look at them all, we're going to be here until tomorrow. Let's look at a few scriptures about righteousness. First one, let's look at 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 11 through 12. It says, "But you, men of God, flee from all this and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. Fight the good fight for the faith. Take hold of the eternal life that you were called to, and have a good confession about Have a good confession about in the presence of many witnesses. All right, let's look at another one. It's from Psalms 1, verse 1 through 2. We could have went through the whole book, chapter of Psalms 1, but y'all can go back and read the entire chapters. So it says, happy is a man who does not follow the advice of the wicked or take the path of sinners or join a group of mockers. But instead, his delight is in the Lord's instruction, and he meditates on it day and night. The next one is from Psalms 37, verse 4 through 6. It says, take delight in the Lord, and he will give you your heart's desires. It says, commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act. It says, making your righteousness shine like the dawn, your justice like the noonday. Another one to look at is actually Psalms 34, verse 13 through 15. It says, keep your tongue from evil and your lips from deceitful speech. Turn away from evil and do what is good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their cry for help. We see that in Genesis chapter 19. And then next one is 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 8 through 12. It says, now finally, all of you should be like-minded and sympathetic, should love believers and be compassionate and humble. Not paying back evil for evil or insult for insult, but on the contrary, giving a blessing since you were called for this, so that you can inherit a blessing. For the one who wants to love life and to see good days must keep his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. We just saw this in Psalms 37. It says, and he must turn away from evil and do what is good. He must seek peace and pursue it. And then he says, because the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous and his ears are open to their requests, but the face of the Lord is against those who do what is evil. So this is basically just Psalms 37 all over again. I think it was 37. Psalms 37 repeated. And then, so after all of that, I could quote, like I said, we could go through multiple scriptures, but this one gives us a brief overview. So I made a little list that we can look at. We don't have to go through every single one of these items. I think we can go through 10, spend 10 minutes on each one of these. What you guys think? That's good? Let me not play with y'all. Okay, so there's a list. This is a whole list. So, a righteous person is an intercessor, reads the Bible and meditates, is persistent, is loving, is kind, is patient, is godly, is obedient, is wise, doesn't gossip, is forgiving, has trust in the Lord, has conviction, is slow to anger, delights in the Lord, committed to the Lord, is gentle, is rooted in God, pleads the cause for others, is peaceful, is honest, has integrity, pursues justice, seeks the Lord, has courage, has self-control, and resists the devil. Now, this is just a small list that doesn't even comprise everything a righteous person is supposed to be. But, I'm working on my patience a little bit. Sometimes it's just like, you knew better than to do that to some people. I'm working on my patience. I'm working on being kinder to people and delighting in the Lord, because Lord knows, because he does know, I did not want to preach tonight, but I'm going to delight in the Lord. So let's look at this. This becomes a question for us. All right, this is the question right here. Are you righteous? I can't answer it for you. I would never know for you. I can assume by what we see when we come to church. I can assume by what we see if I see you at Walmart. But the question is, are you righteous? Are you living the way God called us to live? Are you doing what God called us to do? Be sure to judge yourself by his standard and not based off what you see others doing. We all look righteous to a murderer, and we all look righteous to somebody not doing what's right. So be sure to judge yourself based off God's standard and not based off your peers or people you see around you. Also, it is easy to say you are more righteous than, certain people. It's easier to say that you're righteous than 99% of the world, because you can say, because I come to church every day, that makes me righteous. But are you at the standard that God demands us to be? Why is it important? Let's look at Genesis chapter 18, verse 22 through 33. Now, this is the chapter before. So we're going to look at the conversation between God and Abraham before God destroys the city. And you're going to find some very interesting things in this chapter. First off, you're going to see Abraham is a haggler. God is very kind and compassionate, and God will do what he says he's going to do. All right, those are the three things we're going to see. So let's start looking at it. It says, the men turned from there and went towards Sodom while Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Who are the men? The angels that Lot sees at Sodom and Gomorrah. So, and Abraham stepped forward and said, will you really sweep away the righteous with the wicked? He on his soapbox right now, y'all. Will you really? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away instead of sparing the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people who are in it? And God said, you could not possibly do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. You could not possibly do that. Won't you judge all the earth? Do what is just? Won't the judge of all the earth do what is just? And the Lord says, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. So, Abraham's feeling pretty good about himself right now. So then Abraham says, since I have ventured to speak to the Lord, even though I am dust and ashes, suppose the 50 righteous people lack 5. Will you destroy the whole city for the lack of 5? He replied, God's going to tell you straightforward. Abraham tried to say lacking 5. God's like, I will not destroy the city if I find 45 people there, 45 righteous people. Let's make sure that's right. 45 there. So then he spoke to him again. Suppose 40 are found there. He answered, I will not do it on account of 40. Then he said, let the Lord not be angry. I will speak further. Suppose 30 are found there. He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. See, God is very merciful. Then he says, since I have ventured to speak to the Lord, since I'm already placing all my chips in, suppose 20 are found. He replied, I will not destroy it on account of 20. Then he said, let the Lord not be angry. I speak one more time. Suppose 10 are found there. He answered, I will not destroy it on account of 10. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he departed, and Abraham returned to his place. So we see God is very merciful here. Let's look at a recap of this. So basically, we see Abraham's relationship with God. He had a relationship with God and could approach the throne of grace, not for himself, but for the people that he loved. He was approaching God not because he needed something. He was approaching God because he didn't want Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. And we see in Genesis 18 that he begs God not to destroy the city if there are 10 righteous people there. He started off with 50. He should have kept going lower and lower, but he stopped at 10. He started off at 50 and he stopped at 10. And then, I just thought about this. Imagine the story if Sodom and Gomorrah had 10 righteous people. It'll be entirely different chapter. Lot would have stayed with his family. His daughters would have married his sons-in-law. Things would have been different. But God couldn't save the city. There weren't 10 righteous people in that city. So I have 2 theories to hypothesize here. One, either the righteous people gave up in their righteousness and started to do wicked. And 2, the righteous people who were there got tired of being in a spot where it was unrighteous and unlawful, and they left. And God doesn't call us to do either of those things. God calls us to remain and be faithful and endure hardship. But I think all the righteous people that were there, because let's say the city of Memphis is about 1 million people. If God can't find 10 righteous people in the city, that's a shame. Shame on the church. Shame on the people. Shame on the righteous people in that city. So, again, I'm going to ask y'all again. Are you righteous? So, this is the question for you. Are you righteous? Because Lord knows we live in a very, very messed up society. And if God told me to bargain, I'm going to be like, Lord, what if there's only one righteous person in the city? Will you not destroy it on the fact that there's one righteous person in the city? So Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because of the lack of 10 righteous people. Abraham saved Lot because he was righteous. Abraham at least got to save his own family because he was righteous. I don't even think that Lot was completely righteous. We never hear of Lot's state with God. We never hear Lot give a sacrifice to God. All we hear is Lot came with Abraham. He fought. His shepherds was fighting with Abraham's shepherds. He left and went to the party city. And that's all we hear from Lot. But regardless of what was going on around them and what was happening within the city, if only the ministers, the elders, and all the righteous people that were in that city at one time, there had to be at least a few righteous people. I'm still convinced there had to be at least 1 or 2 righteous people in that city. The story would have been much different. So now my question for you is, do we pray like, Lord, help the unrighteous to become righteous. Help me to remain faithful. Help me to remain pure. Help me to remain in your word. Or are we praying every time we see the news, oh, Lord, I hope everybody gets punished. Oh, Lord, I hope that, you send down hellfire on everybody. Forget forgiveness, forget salvation, forget everything. And Lord, I'm about to leave Memphis because I'm tired of it. I'm about to leave South Haven because I'm tired of all the traffic. And Goodman Road just got fixed and the pothole's about to come back in a few more days. Are we pleading the case for everybody? Are we trying to plead the cause for people in the city? Or are we hoping that God destroys it? Are we like Abraham saying, Lord, how about you give us another shot? How about if there's more righteous people in the city? Or are we just like, let it burn, let it burn. Come on, God, send it down. Are we singing that song, or are we saying, Lord, please help these people, or help more righteous people to stand up in the city? So that's all I have. That's my question. Hey, I pray that you enjoyed this message, and I pray that it applied to your life. We now see that our righteousness is for a reason, that we're doing what is right for a reason. We're not just doing it in vain. Not only are we helping ourselves, but we're helping everybody around us in our community. Our righteousness is just not for us. It's for everybody around us. So I pray you continue on your righteous walk with God and continue to be an upright, standing citizen who listens to God's voice and follow what he has to say. God bless you, and see you on the next one.